Bonjour my lovelies, how are you doing today? For those who do not know, my name is Adrielle. Today we are going to be reviewing my 2017 Burberry trench coat and comparing it against the trench coat that I just bought in 2024. I am also going to be sharing with you some alternatives that you might want to consider if you maybe aren't quite ready to splurge on the Burberry trench coat after this video. I purchased my very first Burberry trench coat in 2017. I had been saving for quite a while and I really wanted one and finally was able to purchase one. And so I bought this one right here. It is the original and it has a removable padded lining on the inside, and then also it has a removable hood. Then last week I actually purchased my second Burberry trench coat. It is a trench coat that is in the Kensington style. So it's basically, that means it's a little bit more fitted at the hips. I have been wanting a new Burberry trench coat for quite a while because this very first one, it actually ended up getting destroyed a little bit at the dry cleaners here in Paris. The first time I took it to a dry cleaner here, they completely destroyed the hood. They washed it like in the dry cleaning cycle way too many times, and now it really looks like quite bad, whereas before it was in excellent condition. The second reason I've been wanting a new Burberry trench coat is because I now walk around all day now that I live in Paris. And so as a result, this one is very short. My first one was very short, and I'm not enough warm in it. I need a longer coat that's going to keep me warm throughout the day. And as a result, I thought it might be helpful for me to give you a comparison and give you a sense of how the Burberry trench coat has changed over the years and whether or not it is still worth your money. Let's start with price. Basically, when I bought this trench coat, this first one right here in 2017, I paid a little under $2,000 for it. So, and it comes with this padding, as I mentioned, and also the removable hood. This one right here that I just purchased last week, I paid a little bit over $2,000 for it. So it's actually priced a little over 2,000 euros. And so then when you kind of do the conversion, that's about $2,300 or $24. As a result, basically you can see the price between what I paid 7 years ago for this trench coat and then what I paid most recently for this one hasn't changed dramatically. However, I will note there have been changes in the quality. There are changes in the materials that have been used and kind of how the coat is finished. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break those all down for you. First and foremost, let's talk about material. Burberry, as you may or may not know, has a new creative director. And under this new creative director, he used to be the lead creative director at Bottega Veneta. Under his direction, he has created kind of a new line of trench coat. And this trench coat is a blend of cotton and a fabric called Gabardine. Gabardine is a type of twill fabric, okay? And basically it is both water resistant and also wrinkle resistant. Now you might be saying, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what I want in a trench coat. I want something that's water resistant. You all, when I say that fabric felt cheap, the fabric felt cheap. It was giving mid-tier mall brand, okay? I was actually incredibly disappointed by the feel of the fabric. I touched it and instantly I looked at the sales associate and she goes, "You don't like the fabric?" I said, "No, I do not like the fabric. The fabric just feels cheap." As a result, because I was just so displeased by the new fabric, they did take me down to try on some of their traditional, Burberry trench coats that are made out of the traditional heavy cotton fabric. So both of these, both my 2017 right here and my 2024 trench coats are both made out of this heavy cotton fabric. And personally, I don't feel a difference between the two fabrics, okay? So for me, when I'm holding it, when I'm touching it, for me, they both feel like the exact same fabric. So that to me is a plus, is that there hasn't been a decrease in the quality of the fabrics between kind of their more recent line and their older lines of coats. With that being said, there's no guarantee that that isn't going to change with the new creative director. So my 2017 trench coat, it comes with the removable padding on the inside, like I said, that's quilted liner, and then also a removable hood, which were two things I definitely really wanted in a trench coat. Unfortunately, the Burberry representatives did tell me that that was a style that was frankly very popular and kind of preferred by the previous creative director in the mid to late 2000s. And so as a result, it's just something that Burberry currently isn't adding to a lot of the trench coats that they are making. Now, let's also talk fit, okay? So differences between fit between 2017 and 2024. So first and foremost, I'll start with what is being created under the new creative director. Basically, the fit of that trench coat is oversized. It has one fit to it. So it is the blended fabric and it's oversized. When I tell you that I looked like I was drowning in that coat, I was like, and the Burberry salespeople were like, oh, don't worry, we can do this to it, we can shorten it here, and we can do this and that. And I was like, it makes sense to have to shorten my sleeves, but to simply essentially like reconstruct the coat, to me, I don't know. That's not really what I'm looking to do with my money. So I basically was like, yeah, no, not really my interest. This legacy style trench coat that I recently bought, my 2024 version, as far as fit, they come in lots of different fits, okay? There are lots of different fits available. I already talked about how, you know, we have the Kensington that cinches in the waist, the Heritage a bit straighter, a car coat. So you have lots of choices as far as fit goes when it comes to kind of the more legacy and traditional styles. So if you're wanting to make sure that you have choice, don't worry. In the old styles, you have lots and lots of choice as far as fit and finding out what fits best for you. Let's get into the details. And this is where I'm really going to just focus on the difference in details between the legacy 2024 trench coat and my older 2017 trench coat, because this is where I think it's really helpful to know how the Burberry trench coat has changed over the past 7 years, and why I say that even though the price may not have substantially increased, there are differences as far as quality. First and foremost, differences are in the belt buckles. This is 2017. Can you hear that? This is a metal. This belt buckle is metal. This is 2024. This is leather. There's nothing else for me to say other than that the leather definitely feels cheap. Like, I actually, when I touched this belt buckle, I didn't think it was leather because it certainly didn't feel like it. And then I went online and it's 100% leather. I have to say, I strongly prefer the 2017 belt buckle with this metal. It just feels so much more substantial. Next up, I also want to talk about the button. Okay, we're back. I also want to talk about the differences between the button holes. So the button holes on my 2017 trench coat are actually encased in a little piece of metal, the same kind of metal that's used for the belt buckle. The new ones, no little metal. Instead, it's just stitching. Like, the buttonholes are simply stitched with stitching around them. They do not have the little metal detail that you find in the 2017 trench coat. It's a teeny tiny detail, but to me, it's those small details that make the difference between something that really is luxurious and something that, to me, feels a little bit more mass market, for lack of a better word. Another difference I want to talk about are buttons. In both situations, both the old one and the new one, the buttons clearly feel like plastic. They don't feel like, it doesn't feel like a substantial, huge difference as far as the quality between the two. I mean, both feel like plastic. I will say that I've never had an issue with buttons falling off this trench coat. And I've had this trench coat for 7 years, never had an issue with the button falling off. And I already have high hopes for the 2024 trench coat because it definitely got caught in a turnstile in the metro. And yeah, none of the buttons broke or snapped or anything. So I have high hopes for the buttons. But the buttons, they seem to be of equivalent quality. I also want to talk about the differences in the sleeves. So on the sleeves on my 2017 trench coat, you can see it's, again, you have this metal buckle that they're using. You have the metal around the buttonholes. And the new one, the 2024, it is leather. And I'm telling you all, this leather just does not feel really that luxe. Again, the buttonholes are just stitched. They are not metal. So that to me is definitely just a decrease as far as the quality in the two items. As far as just the metal up here, both of these, it's this closure around your neck, right? It goes just like this. They both are still made with metal, but again, I just feel like the metal on the 2017 coat is more substantial. I feel like the metal on the 2024 kind of legacy coat, it doesn't feel as substantial as this metal on the old one. And maybe that's in part because the old one has just so much more metal on it that it just feels more substantial and more luxurious simply because of that. Okay, now I'm showing you just the back of both coats so we can see the difference. In the back of this coat right here, it has this button in the center which kind of keeps this flap down. This one does not. That might seem like a small detail, but when I was leaving a restaurant this weekend, someone had to pull this down. It had like flipped up like that. Obviously, a reason to get rid of this is because of just production. You know, it's another button, it's another stitch that has to be made. As you can see, both coats still though have this little flap right here. What you can use this for actually is to put your purse handles underneath it, and it'll keep your purse on your on your shoulder if you didn't know that. But yeah, that's what these are. There are fewer details. There's a lot of stitching right here. There's less stitching here. You know, again, I think that just has to do, that's partially probably due to differences in style. One thing I will note that this belt has that this one does not is it has these really great little loops back here which are metal, and these feel very substantial, this metal right here. So as I said before, like, you know, the metal on the collar may be really the same, but it just, because there's so much more metal on this coat, it feels more substantial. But there is metal in this back buckle right here, and I kind of like that little detail. I think that's really cool. Also, what I want to note is just as far as popping the collar here, and I will just show you this collar popped. I have the hood up. Bring it down. So one thing I will note is that the hood for the old coats also had a removable lining. So many great details, right? So as you can see, here's just the back of it. The neck still has the really great Burberry check detail. This new one, the neck has this really cool Burberry check detail. And then also something that I just find to be a little, I don't quite understand. I guess this is so you can tighten it. That's what I assume it's for, so you can tighten it. But right here, it's just a little bit, to me, it's just a little bit weird because it has these, you know, buttonholes and this opportunity to kind of tighten it a bit more. And I don't know, it just feels a little, it still has the great, you know, Burberry check detail, but I don't know. I really just like, I don't know. Does anyone actually, do people normally need this? I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe this is like a James Bond look. Maybe this is super traditional. This is like what they wore in the British military in World War I. Maybe that's the importance of it. But yeah. A few other details I want to note about my hood from my 2017 is it has this ability to tighten it right here, which is kind of nice. This is a piece of leather doesn't feel super substantial, but you know what? I've literally never had issues with this. So yeah. And then also, as I already noted, the hood does have a removable lining for it. And then the zipper part is right here. The zipper part is actually hidden, which I always think is a lovely detail if you have a removable, you know, hood to be able to hide the zipper. So you have this nice way to be able to hide the zipper here. So yeah, so these are just kind of some of the other little details you see on the 2017 version that's not on the 2024 version. And that is, of course, as I mentioned, because, you know, they are different style of coats. So it's not super surprising that there are going to be some differences in tiny details. So funny thing, throughout this video, I have been calling this trench coat the Kensington. That is not what I got. I got the Waterloo. I don't know what is wrong with me. So yes, the coat I've been showing you is not the Kensington, it's the Waterloo. My bad. Anyway, as far as interiors go, just to give you a comparison, both still have, you know, that same Burberry print interior, right? So it's a little harder to see on this jacket because I do have the lining inside of it, but yeah, it still has a great Burberry interior. So does this one as well. It has the check. This is a slightly different, you know, style of check, but it is still here. And one thing I will say is that I do think Burberry trench coats are constructed really well. I do believe that I can tell you for 100% fact, they do stand the test of time. I mean, as I said, this coat was run through the dry cleaner ran it through the machine, I don't know how many times, and 100% like destroyed the zipper. And the coat definitely looks more faded and vintage than it did before, but it's still shockingly, like, I'm surprised, frankly, like the buttons didn't fall off and the stitching didn't come off because of the way the dry cleaner treated the coat. So yeah, the coat is actually, this coat has held on quite well over the years. So 100% consider it to be a, you know, a very good quality trench coat. A few final things I kind of want to say about the Burberry trench coat. I understand if you are not at the point where you can afford a Burberry trench coat. As I mentioned, I saved up for mine because it was something that I really wanted, and so I did not buy other trench coats. Like, I bought one maybe at TJ Maxx for like 50 bucks, but then other than that, did not buy a trench coat and was really focused on saving up so that I could buy the Burberry trench coat. I will note, however, that Burberry trench coats do go on sale. So you can sometimes purchase them through sales on different retailer websites. You can also purchase them through the Burberry sample sale if you can get access to that. I think it is a really great way to get your hands on a trench coat at a discounted price. I will also note you can also buy trench coats at the Burberry outlet. However, when it comes to buying something at the Burberry outlet, I would strongly recommend that you really take a look at a Burberry trench coat in a store before you go buy one or consider looking at one at an outlet, because you're going to want to know if there are any differences in quality, if there are any differences in details, if there are any differences in fit. I will also note that a Burberry trench coat is not something you should buy on final sale. Like, you need to touch that baby, you need to try it on, you need to see it and feel it and make sure that the style and the fit and everything are right for you. So if you see it online and you're like, oh, it's online but it's final sale, don't get it. Don't get it. You gotta know. Now, let's say that frankly, you just like, right now you can't afford to splurge, but you still want a trench coat, and you're like, okay, Adriel, I'm gonna save for my Burberry trench coat, but I still want a trench coat now, and I want something that's good quality, that I'll still be able to use, you know, after I get the Burberry trench coat. That's cool. That makes sense. I'm gonna give you some suggestions. First and foremost, you could also consider a vintage Burberry trench coat. Those you can find a lot in flea markets, that sort of thing. Particularly, this is one of those moments where I'm very spoiled by the fact that I live in Paris. Yeah, like, I can find a vintage Burberry trench coat like that. Like, it's just like that. So, and for like 30 or 40 euros, right? So I am definitely spoiled in that sense. I would also say if you're looking for some alternatives, consider looking at J. Crew, Banana Republic, Cezanne, and Everlane. So those are the 4 stores that I would check out if I was still in the US. In deciding whether or not one of these alternatives is right for you, there are 3 things I would recommend you keep in mind. 1, keep in mind the fit. You need to be able to try on the trench coat, know what looks best on your body. You really do want to make sure that you can try on the trench coat that you are looking to purchase. So you really want to be mindful of the fit and mindful of like what looks best on your frame. The second thing you're going to want to keep in mind when you're shopping for a trench coat and you're looking at, you know, one of these alternatives is keep in mind, frankly, the fabric. Like the fabric of both of these trench coats, the fabric is substantial. The fabric from what the new creative director is doing, that's substantial. So you really want to be mindful of fabric. You want something that is a bit heavier, something that is a bit weightier. That is what is going to be important for keeping you warm. And one thing that I will note is that because of this trench coat has the padded lining and whatnot, I actually basically took my normal size in this trench coat, the one that I got in 2017, because I knew that if I was going to be wearing it with the padding, then that meant I would probably be a little chilly, and so I'd want to have it a little bit close to my body to keep me warm. Whereas the one that I bought just recently in 2024, I actually ended up going one size up on that because it doesn't have the padding in it. So I know that there might be situations where I want to wear a cardigan or whatnot under it because I will be cold. So as a result, I sized up a little bit. So this one right here is a size 0. This is the size 2. Basically, that's why you really have to keep in mind fit and fabric, because if you invest in a trench coat that maybe has slightly thinner fabric, that maybe is more of a gabardine and it's a little bit more water resistant and that sort of thing, then it may not be as heavy. And if it's not as heavy, then you're gonna wanna adjust the fit to make sure you can wear something underneath it, like a puffer layer to keep you warm. The third thing you're going to want to keep in mind when you're shopping for a trench coat, if you're looking at one of these alternative brands, is to make sure you really look very closely at the finishes, right? Like, look at what's on the sleeves, look at the materials they're using. Is it leather? Is it metal? You know, what do the buttonholes look like? What does the stitching look like? Like, the stitching on these Burberry coats is truly exceptional. It's exceptional. So that's one of the things you really want to make sure you keep in mind is what does the stitching look like? What is the quality of the fabric? What are the details? How is it finished? Does it look luxurious? You really need to be conscious about, you know, making sure you're getting something that you're not just getting on final sale and you're hoping it's going to work out. No. Try it out, go into the store, check out the fit, you know, check out the style, check out the quality of the materials, look at the finishes, make sure that it's perfect and it's right for you. Okay, well, there we have it. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments that you want to add in the comment box. As y'all know, I always respond. It takes me a moment sometimes, but I do always respond. Please feel free to let me know any of your thoughts. I'd love to know if you already have a Burberry trench coat and what's your thoughts on it, how yours may have stood the test of time. If you managed to score one on a deal, let us know. You know, that's something also I'd love to hear. So thank you so much again for watching. Take care, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye!